Okay, so, oops, wrong one. Welcome. I'm Emily. I'll be your stats guide this term. It's probably my favorite course to teach, and so I hope you'll like it too. My name is just Emily spelled funny. So many E's. It's not like my parents are super cool or anything. I was born in Sweden and that's just how you spell it there. And then we moved here and everyone's like, so what is your name? E-M-E-L-I-E. And then my last name was Gustafson, which was also kind of a pain. But then I married Jared Lee. And now there's 5 E's. Isn't that crazy? Okay, so we'll start off. So this is just a screenshot from our Moodle page. In terms of contacting me, I'm kind of available to you all the time. And so if you want to email me, it's the usual, ely@okanagan.bc.ca. But I also give out my cell phone number, text only, okay? Don't call me. It's very weird. And also, I won't pick up because my ringer is never on, never, ever, ever. So you don't have to worry about kind of disturbing me at a weird time. And the reason I give out my cell phone number is because if you're working on a problem, then kind of, one, if you've formulated the issue, kind of, oh, I'm working on this and I'm stuck on this, that's a huge step in the right direction. But also, usually we're working a lot on paper and, there's a lot of kind of side work. Typing that up would be a huge pain in the head. And so then if you just send me a picture, I can look at the picture, I can mark it up, I can do something on the side, I can send it back. And it's kind of an easier, quicker exchange than email is typically. I find, well, I'm old, so if it's an email, I kind of feel like I have to sit down and type it up and, it's more formal and I have to introduce myself. Hope you're doing well. Whatever. Whereas if you've introduced yourself once, then tell me your name, tell me which class you're in, and then I save you as your first name and the class that you're in, and then I'll just know. And so then you can just say, hey, I'm working on this problem, and it's a little bit quicker and kind of more efficient. Totally fine if you want to email instead. They go to the same place, and either way is fine. Okay? But I do find that if you text me, it's a little bit more urgent feeling, right? And I can kind of get it off my desk quicker. Okay? My office is in, let's see if I can see 104, way over there. And so depending on where you hang out on campus, the B building's not it for me, right? And I passed someone who has her office in the B building and I'm in the C building and she's clearly walking to the C building and I'm walking to the B building. Makes no sense, but here we are. And so, but if you hang out in the C building, I'm right there on the first floor. It's a shared office. The door's often closed because the hallway's really loud. But if you just knock, so if someone's in there, they'll come get you. Okay. I sit right at the front, like a receptionist. So everyone who comes in, they're looking for someone else. I'm like, how can I help you? And so there. I don't do office hours because I am always available to you, which I hope is just kind of a little bit better than doing office hours. I say by appointment. There should be kind of quotes around that because what I mean by that is if I'm in my office, it's my office hours and I'm in my office a lot. Okay, so you're welcome to just stop by and see if I'm there, or if you're not in the C building and you don't want to walk all the way over there when it gets a little bit colder, right? Then you can text me, hey, are you on campus? I'll be like, yeah, sure, come on by, right? And so So what I mean by appointment, I'm usually available on short notice. And so this term, I don't have any classes on Mondays. And so I'm not committing to being on campus on Mondays. But besides that, I'll be around. Okay? So even if you aren't on campus, I'm happy to hop on Zoom too. Okay? So, which brings me to my Zoom talk. So I don't do it officially. I do it for your benefit, but I do host class in Zoom just because, well, it's a nice thing to do, I think. If you can't make it, we're kind of midday. 10 is kind of a luxurious start time, right? But if for some reason you can't make it to school, then you can, this is a screenshot, but then you can, I remember what I did. I hid the Zoom link because it's very confusing, right? If you saw a Zoom link, you'd be like, what am I supposed to do here? So I'll post the Zoom room. You know what? Let's just do it. Edit all these hidden things. Okay, so I'm always in the same Zoom room. And so that's my Zoom room. And if we're meeting on Zoom, then that's where you go. And during class, you're welcome to join on Zoom, but as long as you understand that you're a passive participant, okay? Because I can't see the chat. I only have the one screen, and so it's not set up for an online class, obviously. But so you only see my screen and hear my voice, and I can't see the chat. So you're just you're there. You don't have to have your camera on or anything, and so you can just kind of see class happening. Okay. If you can't make it to that, well, if you can't make it to class, and if you can't make it to the Zoom, then I record all the lectures and I post them on YouTube after class. Okay? And so it feels very generous, but all I'm doing really is putting the onus on you, right? If you miss a class, I've done all these things, now it's on you, right? Watching 2 hours of my screen and my voice sounds like an absolute nightmare to me, but at least you'll have it. Okay, so it exists. And I know you guys are probably watching it at double time or something, right? But anyways, so that's why I have the Zoom up, is if you want to hop in, you're more than welcome to, right? But you've got all these modes of access that I give you. After class, I'll post any notes that I write. Right, so if I write on here, it's first day, course outline day. No, decided no. Someone was there, they turn around, said no. Course outline day, not much to write about, but kind of getting to know, well, I don't get to know you yet, but you kind of get to know me a little bit. Right? So, well, what about me? I did my undergrad in math at UBCO, and then I was too scared to get a job. So then I did my master's in stats, also at UBCO. And then I felt like, okay, I can do this. And so then I worked in industry for a while. And then I guess 10 years ago, maybe to the day, UBCO called and said, hey, are you available to teach a course? And so kind of did the skedaddle and I came up and I started teaching. And I've been teaching ever since. And so pretty fun, but yeah, kind of a milestone for me today. 10 years, crazy. I just might know what I'm doing, just might. It was actually this course and a similar course that I was teaching, so extra fun. So after class, I'll post the lectures on YouTube. There, whoops. Be sure to like and subscribe. No, that's a joke. I don't actually care. You'll see there's so many videos, and they're all equally boring probably. There is a stats playlist. So if you just kind of want pure content, then that exists. It's from the old version of the textbook, but same content, different order. Do you guys know about the Success Center in the library? So Kate, I'll bring Kate in. No, I'll ask Kate to come in. I'll bring her in to introduce herself, but she'll be the one to go to for stats help. She's really, really great. It's really impressive. She does math, she does stats, she does biology, she does chemistry, she does physics, she does all these sciences, and I don't know how, but she'll be a great resource. So the Success Center, if you don't know, is free tutoring. It's you go into the library and you just kind of look lost and they'll send you there probably. And so they've already been paid. Your job to use them, right? So it's free tutoring, which is really great. For some beginning of term inspiration, you can watch the Grit TED Talk. Has anyone watched it before? Angela Duckworth does this TED Talk on kind of how to succeed in math type of courses, and so I would include this. And it's really just about, grit and working at it, and not so much about mathematical ability, because if you stick with it, you can get through it. Okay? And so that's kind of my message to you. I know in this course, some of you might be feeling excited about the math aspect, right? Some of you might be feeling the opposite, a little bit, I am not very good at math. Oh well, let's see how this goes, right? To upset both of those camps, I'm going to say that stats is like a beautiful dance between art and math. Okay? There's a lot of English, a lot of interpretations, a lot of kind of conceptual things that we need to keep track of, with a little bit of math, right, sprinkled in. And so I'd call it the most kind of artsy of the maths. So that's kind of fun. Hopefully. Makes me very particular about wording, right, as you'll find. But no content today. So let's work our way through this. Oh, test one. So we have a Wednesday, Friday block. That seems to be kind of new to me. I don't know, it seems weird. But who am I to say? I don't do the scheduling. And so Wednesday, Friday, I usually try to do a test. So test one, I try to do it before reading break so that you can actually have a break. Okay. And so, but I don't want to do it on the Friday before the reading break. So I am going to put it, let's use a brighter pen. What does that make it? Reading break, I think February 12th. I did decide this already. I just forgot to write it down. Yeah, February 12th is test one. In class, okay, which leaves the Friday. I think what I'll do is put us all out of our misery, and I'll give you a video to watch to prepare for after reading break. How's that sound? And then we won't have class on the Friday before reading break, because it's our only break and we're gonna need it, right? There's no long weekends in term two. It's just that one reading break. And by the time we hit February, you're gonna need it, right? And so that's what I wanna do. And I want you to know that kind of right off the get-go. Okay. Test 2, who knows? It'll be in March sometime. Can't remember. I'll fill that in. I can't believe I forgot, but that's okay. All right. Any questions so far? Will your test be animal themed? Yes. How did you know? What? That's crazy. Of course they will be. All right. So let me go back to Moodle. Since I'm on a Moodle kick here, switch role to students so you don't see all my hidden mess. I did post my schedule just because I know, sad, you're not my only class, right? If you're trying to get a hold of me, it might be nice to know if I might be available. So pretty cushy schedule, right? It's crazy. If only I could move our class to Tuesday, Thursday, it'd be the ultimate, but that's okay. Mondays, like I said, probably not here, maybe here. Part of that is my husband lives in Victoria. He's in the military, so we never live together. We joke that in the summer I move in with him. And so I'll probably be going to Victoria, for some weekends. And so after class on Friday, I may or may not be available too. But usually kind of tests are done by that time in the week. And so that's the most high traffic those days anyways. So yeah, but if you need to meet me, just let me know. Okay. So what does he do in the military? He's a dentist. Isn't that so weird? Where else has he lived? Ottawa, Edmonton, but now he's nice and close. So that's nice. All right. I like to throw those out there because if someone's like, hey, I lived in Ottawa, I lived in Edmonton, it's always fun. All right. Course outline. I said it all already. My name, my office, my email, blah, 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 blah. It's all on Moodle. Usually I send out kind of a test message. Although last term when I did it, it freaked everyone out because they thought there was a test on the first day. But really all I meant was a test Moodle announcement. Like I'm making sure that you get it. Okay. And so I've never been concerned about it before, but last year I was really, really sick for a good chunk of time. And so I need to be able to get a hold of you kind of quickly. And so it's just kind of a precaution. Okay. So I'll send that out later today. Make sure you get it. And then I'll ask you on Friday if you got it. Okay. So just make sure that your Moodle announcements are going out properly. Okay. Calendar description. Hopefully you read it because you signed up. And so one of the main things is you can't get credit for 124 and 121 because they're the same course, essentially. And so, and it doesn't typically count for a science degree if you're transferring. So those are just things to keep track of. Okay. Okay. We use an open textbook called Open Intro. Haha. Oh, I feel like Martha Stewart. Got it ready in this hidden cubby. These things never work for me because they're always at like this kind of incline. So this is kind of exciting. But so it is open source. So you can download the PDF. I think I posted the PDF on Moodle already. But you can also buy the hard copy on Amazon. I think last time I checked, it's like $25 or something. And it's got this like very, very nice, pleasant cover, which I'll leave it at the front at the end of class if you want to touch it, because it's really nice. And maybe you can learn by osmosis. Just maybe, it's worth a shot. Anyways, maybe I've oiled it up over the years, but we're going to be working through pretty much the whole textbook. Don't look at it like this. Look at it like this. That looks doable, right? That's totally reasonable. You can learn all that. It's huge print, lots of exercises that you may or may not ever look at. It's okay. That seems doable. Okay. I'm, no spring chicken anymore, so I need a hard copy so that I can actually read it. What's funny is I've noticed if I read on my iPad, I read a lot faster, but I don't absorb, right? And so if I read on print, it's slower, so that's annoying. But I absorb it better. It's weird. All right. Any questions? No. Pretty standard grade breakdown, 20% assignments, 20% for test 1, 20% for test 2, split evenly. Final exam, 40%. Okay. So I don't put it anywhere official because I like to kind of decide from term to term, but I will say it here, and then I'll bring it up kind of around test 1, test 2. But my goal is that you're improving, right? You're improving across the course. So if one of these tests doesn't go as well as you had hoped, right? I don't want that to bring you down overall. Okay, so for one of your tests, I won't do 2 because it makes a mess, but for one of your tests, I'll take your lowest test grade and shift that weight to the final exam, right? If the final exam is better, obviously. I'm not gonna shift it if it's worse. But right, my goal is improvement. So if your final exam is better than one of your test grades, I'll shift that lowest test grade to the final exam. Okay. Can't do that until you've written the final exam, obviously. But that is something that I will do. And I hope that kind of eases some of the panic around the tests. So whether you don't write it, you are not prepared, doesn't matter to me, right? The lowest test weight, I'll shift it. Question?
Sorry, I just didn't catch what you mean.
So if, let's say test 1, you weren't able to prepare, nothing, it's okay, you wrote it, didn't go well, then as long as the final exam is better, right, I'll shift this 20% onto the final exam. So the final exam would be worth 60%, but I don't do that until you have a good grade on the final exam, right? So, but I'll only do it for one of the tests, right? So if you end up missing both tests, then we need to talk about that. But that's also because I like to be able to mark tests and return them whenever I'm ready to, right? And so I don't do makeup tests or anything like that. If you miss it, you don't have to let me know. It's okay. You're all adults, whether you're sick or anything. I care about you, but I don't care about the reason you're missing the test, because I find that that's an added kind of stressor. If you're already missing a test, you're stressed out about that. So don't worry about me. It's fine. Give you a blank test to practice on when you get back. Totally fine, right? If you're trying to be strategic and I didn't study enough, I'm not prepared for this test, I want you to still write it. There's so much value in sitting down and reading these questions and trying to figure it out. You might surprise yourself, right? Or, if you're not prepared, then it's no surprise you didn't do well, but you've still got this fallback plan. Okay. Any questions about those. Okay. So there are a lot of assignments. They're worth 20% of your grade. I'm expecting you to get 100% on the assignments. Okay. This isn't kind of a gotcha moment. You should have this 20% in the bag, right? The assignments are online. You get a ton of different tries, so a ton of different attempts, a ton of different versions. You can kind of keep working at it. I always find it so cute when someone's working on their first assignment and they're like, so, but it says I can try another version. Like, is that, or did you set it wrong? Or like, no, you try it until you know how to do it. That's the point, right? And so that's why you should have 100% on assignments. It'll take your highest grade. So even if you try it again, it'll take your highest grade. Okay. There are kind of two separate types of assignments. So there's kind of the theoretical assignments, which I just call assignments. There will also be Excel assignments, okay? And so those take some getting used to because you're just reading through the instructions on how to do things in Excel and then completing some problems. They're kind of standalone documents. I will incorporate some Excel in class when it's appropriate, but these first few Excel assignments, they're just kind of introducing Excel, and make sure you have Excel installed because you get it with your tuition, right? And so if you don't have it installed, then we can figure that out, but you do get it with your tuition, and so you should have access to it. Okay, so yeah, usually people don't like the Excel assignments, but you didn't talk about this in class. But do you agree that it would be valuable to know how to do some of these things in Excel? Probably, or you will. We still don't really know what we're doing here, do we? No. You won't believe what happens next. No. What is statistics? The reason you have to take this course, presumably, rarely does anyone take this course just for fun. You have to take this course because anytime you need to prove that there's a significant change or a significant difference between two things, you need statistics, right? And so if you want to prove that your product that you've developed sold significantly faster than some competing product or something like that, you need statistics to back it up, right? You can't just say, oh yeah, they're significantly different. No, you need statistics, right? And so that's why you have to take this course. Okay? And of course we use software. So there are kind of by hand versions, ways of doing things, obviously hand calculations, but in the real world, we really just use software. And we are using Excel, but there's lots of other softwares. SPSS is a common one it's statistical programming for the social sciences. So in the social sciences, they use SPSS a lot, but you have to pay for it. So that's kind of a bummer. R, statistical programming language, very common. We're not using it, but I do work a lot in R. There's Python, lots of different tools that we could be using, but we're just using Excel, all right? Okay, so good. For the assignments, I'll warn you, there are a lot of assignments because I do basically every day gets an assignment. I could be mean and just put them all in one huge assignment, but then it wouldn't break up this 20% as easily, right? So by giving you tons and tons of assignments, I break that 20% up. So if you miss an assignment, it's really not going to impact your overall grade significantly. Just you lose that 100% on the assignments. I'll give you some bonus assignments to make up for it, right? I think I have 2 or 3 figured out for this term, where you can do those. You have to read on your own, learn on your own, gulp. But if you do those, then I'll replace your lowest assignment grade with those. For the assignments, I give you late passes. So I give you 15 late passes. The deal with late passes is, and I'll write that down, mostly so I don't forget to do it. No, I already set it up. Give you 15 late passes. Okay. What a late pass does is, if you apply it before the due date, has to be before, right? It'll extend that deadline by 24 hours. And you can apply 1, 2, I wouldn't do 3 late passes because each assignment is only worth so much, right? It's worth very little. And so, but if you need more time, you just apply a late pass and it extends it by 24 hours, okay? And so, but you have to do it before the due date, right? My reason for that is, if you're working with a client, for example, and you've decided on a deadline and you know you're not going to meet that deadline, usually they're fine with that. But you do have to let them know before the deadline that you're not going to make the deadline, right? And so that's kind of the reasoning there. Also, it shows you the answer after the due date, so I don't want that. That's also the reason, kind of personal reasons, I guess. Any questions about those assignments?
What length of time are we typically given to complete an assignment?
So from the time I finish a topic, I'll give you at least a week to finish the assignment. So I'll post the assignment and you'll have at least a week. Sometimes I give you a little buffer, right? And the Excel assignments, I make the due dates a little bit longer, just because you are working through it on your own, right? And maybe you need to come see me and ask me questions about it. It's totally fine, right? And so it's kind of an on your own activity. And so I give you longer deadlines. Nice. Any other questions? So there is a final exam, of course. We talked about the tests. Oops. Pointer there. We talked about the tests. Like I said, I can't remember when in March I'll update that little table on Moodle with the test dates, but the first one is the one before reading break. Okay. Final exam is cumulative, right? Whereas the tests will be very siloed, right? These topics, then these topics, right? We do rely on the first topics, but they'll be so ingrained by that point, it'll just feel like those topics. Okay? I don't know when the final exam is, but usually campus is all abuzz. Oh, the final exam schedule's out. It's out. What's your final exam? Which is pretty fun. Back in the day, they used to just have this board, this huge board that they rolled out and put it like in the atrium in the e-building and just printouts of the final exam schedule. Now you just check online. So we just run over there. When's my final exam? I know how far we've come. We also used to have to check our grades on our instructors' doors. They would post our grades on their office doors. That's weird, right? Yeah, I know. Imagine the world. So as I scroll through the learning outcomes, blah, 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 blah. These probably won't mean anything to you now. If they do, that's cool. But let's revisit these closer to the final exam, right? So these are things that you will know. And look at this. Huh? That's pretty cool. Add that to your resume, right? There is one thing. We don't use ANOVAs. It's on there in error. But besides that, you'll be grateful when you do the bonus assignment on ANOVAs. I'll give you a bonus assignment, so kind of, right? You can read up on it on your own. Right? But besides that, we're doing all those things. But how? We're going to do chapters 1 through 8 in the textbook. There's a 9th chapter, which we'll kind of dip into if there's time at the end. Usually I just kind of grab one little tidbit and that's all we have time for at that point. Okay, but let's see here. Where's my pointer? Chapter 1. We do chapter 1 in one day. Okay. It introduces a lot of terminology that we're going to rely on, right? But there's not a lot of content there. It's just, here are all the terms that we need in order to proceed. And then you have all weekend to think about it and learn that vocabulary. And then when you show up on Wednesday, I expect that you have that vocabulary, right? Because I'll need you to have it, right? In order to talk about things, right? That's just an itty bitty chapter. Then we talk about summarizing data, right? We're going to be analyzing data quite a bit. And so of course we need to be able to summarize data. Everyone's least favorite chapter, including mine, I'm probably the problem here because I dislike probability so much that I rub off on you, I fear. But then we get into some more fun stuff in chapter 4, distributions of random variables. And that is where test 1 will be. Okay. Then we have reading break. And then we get into the meat and potatoes of the course, which is inference. Now, inference is when we have, so we've collected a sample of data. Oh, there I go, some terminology. Just forget I said anything. No. We collect a sample of data, right? But our ultimate goal is to learn about the whole population which we drew that sample from, right? So we want to infer information from our sample to our population, right? And so that's where we get this idea of, okay, are these things significantly different from each other, right? And so this is kind of the most important part of the course, right? All the other stuff are things we have to talk about and we have to get through and play around with, but then things kind of settle down after reading break and we'll learn some pretty cool stuff. Maybe I shouldn't have highlighted. Chapter 8 is important, but it's different. We're gonna have test number 2 after chapter 7. Yeah. We'll talk more about kind of that chunk of chapters next day, right? But as a preview, these look the same, right? Inference for categorical data, inference for numerical data. So if there's 2 different things that we could be doing, we should probably know, well, what does it mean for something to be categorical and what does it mean for something to be numerical? So that's what we'll talk about on Friday, right? And so those are all the terms that we need to keep an eye on. And then we do regression, just kind of a fun way to finish the course, which is really just fitting a line of best fit, right? And so if you, I remember in high school, I think it was in chemistry, we had drawn our data on a scatter plot, right? Just kind of dot, dot, dot. And then they told us to draw the line of best fit and we just took a ruler and just went for it. It's a little bit more sophisticated than that, but the idea is the same. Okay. All right. Any questions? Content. Okay. So these department policies are auto-generated, but I do want to highlight some of these because I want to be able to pull up the course outline from day one at the end of the term and say, but I told you, I even highlighted it. And so kind of a bummer to bring up, I guess. But you need to get at least 45% on the final exam to be able to pass the course. So it doesn't matter what you would get overall. You have to get at least 45% on the final exam. Okay. Think about this. That sounds harsh. What if I said you have to pass the final to pass the course? That seems perfectly reasonable, right? Oh yeah, half the material, sure, yeah, that seems reasonable. But this is actually lower than pass the final. It's kind of a fun thought experiment. I always find that the reaction to 45 is like, what are you trying to pull? Whereas if I say, oh, you have to pass the final to pass the course, everyone's like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, right? It's actually lower. So, but if you, for some reason, don't reach that 45%, then the highest I can give you is 45%. I know. So I had a couple of students. The reason I'm highlighting it is because I had a couple of students walk into the final exam, and I bring it up right before the final exam, the review, blah, blah, blah. And so I don't know how they missed it, but they kind of looked at their grades and said, oh, I only need 20% to pass the course. And so that's what they did, I guess. And then I had to fail them. And so that's pretty sad for me and for them, probably more for them, but actually really sad for me too. Okay. But like I said, I bring it up towards the end of the course as well to really put a damper on the mood. But you're going to do so much better than 45%. You'll need a calculator. Any calculator will do. I think you might want to have kind of a multi-line display, right? Because those little desk calculators, they don't have all the fancy power functions and things like that. And so maybe just some sort of basic scientific calculator. I use this one, it's old. The newer version, I think they sell it in the bookstore. And yeah, if you've got the business calculator, that's cool. That one's good. The new one is, I think, black with some green buttons, way cooler looking than mine, but any scientific calculator will do. Okay. There are some things that we're going to do by hand that you will be able to do on a basic scientific calculator using the built-in functions. If you're doing that, that's cool. Just let me know that you're doing that and you're allowed to do that on the test, right? If you've taken the time to learn these things and learn how they work, right? I'm not about the computation itself, right? You do have to do your math legally, right? Legal math. But if you've figured out how to do something, okay, fine. The binomial distribution on your calculator, that's awesome. That's cool. Just on your test, right? I'm using my calculator to find this. And here's what I put into my calculator, right? But I'll bring that up when it becomes kind of more pertinent. But there are a lot of functions that you can just use your calculator for. And so it's worth exploring. It does say non-graphing calculator. I always have a hard time with that because when I went to school, I had my favorite TI-83 and we were never apart, right? And so if you've got a graphing calculator that you love to use, I'll just need to check it before the every test, but you're allowed to use it. Okay, so that's totally fine. But you don't need a graphing calculator. But if you have one, you want to use it, cool. Yeah. I'm going to give you a formula sheet, but I don't give it out until we really need it. We'll see if I bring it on Friday, but I fear if I bust it out, then everyone's just going to drop my class. And we're going to go through it nice and slow, nothing crazy. What does it look like? How scary could it possibly be? Well, maybe I'll bring it on Friday. And again, we've got a cumulative final exam. Okay. You made it here, so you know classes started. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. You have to drop, you have to do it before January 17th. We've got, of course, if you're like me, first thing I did in my planner was, when is reading break? It's the week of Family Day, okay, no classes, and then there's no breaks until the end, which is April 11th. But that's not the most important date. The next important date is for me, because for some reason, it's not common knowledge, so by March 14th, you should probably, add that to your calendar or something, just as a little reminder. Goes for all your courses. March 14th, you'll have a really good idea if you'll be able to pull this off, or if you're staring a fail in the face, right? If you are willing to work at it, I'll work with you, but sometimes life just doesn't go that way, right? And so maybe, you've got other things going on, and there's just no way you're going to pull it off, right? Before March 14th, I would say strategically, you should drop the course and get the W, okay, instead of the fail, because a W doesn't count towards your GPA, whereas a fail does, okay? And so that's why I say strategically, it makes more sense to withdraw with a W than to go ahead and fail the course, okay? And so that's the one I want to highlight. We've got Easter kind of bunging up the final exam schedule, but they were still able to keep it nice and tight. So that's nice. It's kind of more for me than sometimes they stretch the final exam schedule out so long, but they've managed to tighten it up. Not sure how, because we don't have any rooms, but that's not my problem. So, and what's nice is we're always done before my birthday, which is April 30th. So, love it. Term 2. And just think about it. It's going to be spring. Mom's going to be all excited for summer. I love it. I love that time of year. Any questions? Dates. Okay. Talked about the success centers. They're across all campuses, but we're working with Kate here. Final exam policy. All right. Plan to show up. It's a good start. That kind of thing. Don't cheat. Be nice to each other. Be nice to me. There are lots and lots of resources, but some main ones. There's disability access services, and more importantly, because if you're working with them, you're already working with them. But the counseling services is kind of lesser known. So there are counselors on campus that you can meet with, and again, for free, and kind of lots of resources available to you. And would you believe it? It's the end of the course outline. So let's see here. did I finish talking about? Oh, I know, I can't let you go quite yet. Let's finish talking about our Moodle page. We're almost there. Yeah. So I posted the course outline. I will post the one that I've only written some notes today, but I'll post those so you have them, right, with the highlights. Posted the textbook, right, a link to the textbook, so you can read ahead. There's a pretty cute case study in section 1.1 that we're not going to talk about. I think there's a link to a video as well, so you can watch that just to get kind of primed, right? We'll jump right into section 1.2. It's so funny because I would call this my course. This is the course that I just always have. It's ready to go. I know what I'm doing. And for some reason, I have not set up your Moodle page because I have two courses kind of making a mess, two new courses that I'm trying to get a handle on. So I'll get this cleaned up. But every day, I like to highlight what we're, supposed to be doing so that you can read ahead. So Tuesday, that's wrong. Wednesday, introductions. Friday, chapter 1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Clearly needs some work. I'll clean that up. Okay. But every day I like to outline what we're going to be doing, and then you can read ahead if you want to. You don't have to, but if you're feeling like this material might be difficult, then that's a good place to start, is reading ahead. And so, because even if it doesn't make sense when you're reading it, at least when I say it, it'll be the second time that you're kind of hearing it and not the first time, right? And then if you go back and reread it, then it'll be the third time, and that's how we learn, right? And so I encourage you to do pre-reading, but I don't assume that you have, okay? And so, but it is good practice. I've posted the chapter videos from the textbook. I have not watched these. They are from the author, whom I love, Mina Satinka Rundell. She's very funny and very clever. And so I'm sure the videos are fine. I just have not watched them. But if you want those videos, then they're there. Here are the slides. I want to try to move away from the slides. But the problem is I can't write very much because I got a wrist thing, or kind of like a thumb thing going on. And so my writing is not very good, but it never was. So I use it as an excuse, but it never was that good. And also it becomes really painful towards the middle of the term. And so I'm trying not to write too much, but I've got a lot to say. So tough, right? But so I have been using the slides. I mark up the slides, but I want to kind of move towards maybe typed up notes or something like that. But for now, got the slides and same material anyways. But I mentioned that so you don't go printing off all the slides quite yet, because there's a lot of replication stuff. So you don't have to. Yeah. And with that, I think that's all. Are there any questions? Oh. All right, then I release you, and I'll see you on Friday.